Hey guys, this is OddOneGaming. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. In today's video, we're gonna look at the changes that I personally have been waiting for a long while, and those are gonna be the changes for the Hydra, right? Hydra itself needed a few tweaks, or a few things needed a few changes because, pretty much for the balance of the game. Again, this is my opinion. I hope I don't even know. Last time when we had this, it was with the Corpulent Cadaver. There was like a hot mess. I know people are going to have some different opinions. So, if you disagree with this one, I'm fine. Just leave your comments down below. Just please try and be respectful, right? What I'm going to say after looking at this is I'm just going to tell you my opinion, okay? If it's, the right thing or the wrong thing, it's not for me to say or for like any of us. It's just going to be my opinion. So I just want to start by saying this because, like I said, I know what happened last time. I was like, I was just bombarded. People were being extremely rude. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's just me telling my opinion. But anyway, let's jump into it. Let's see exactly what they're going to do. And let's watch the video.
Hey, everyone. We've got a different kind of update preview for you today. We're showing off some balance changes coming to the Hydra and a few other areas of the game. Along the way, we'll explain why we're making these changes, but here's a quick overview. The current meta is way too limiting to players who don't have specific champions in their collection.
I completely agree. It's this is like kind of the first thing where I'm going to jump in and say my opinion is I never liked when there's like, two teams that are always the best, always at the top, and they're so much better than other stuff that it becomes redundant. And especially stuff like Trunda, right? Lots of people build it. I have a team personally, but I was never a fan. I never liked it, right? At the end of the day, the way the Trunda worked, especially with that A2, it's not actually working as intended. The A2 wasn't doing only 60% of the initial damage. It was remultiplying everything again when it was hitting every other head. So that's why that one was a cheese team that, even though I personally used it, I don't like it, right? I didn't personally like it, and it's the reality. It's, Raid's problems that they waited so long to actually fix it, where it gave people time to do something, to build a team. And now that so many people invested in it, it's kind of a problem. And the other one was kind of like, the Yannicka Wixwell team. That's another cheese team that pretty much was like, I just, it's like, yeah, most people could have done it. Most people could have built that team, but it kind of defeats the purpose of always trying improving in Hydra, right? Because if you have one's a Trunda team, one's a Wixwell team, or if you have several Wixwells with Yannickas, then what are you playing, right? Do you even care? Do you even do Hydra anymore? You just make those cheese teams, and that's about it. Like, I don't know. That was just not fun for me. But let's continue watching this.
We want you to experiment with different tactics and teams, switching things up each week. Let's dive in and take a closer look at what's coming. First up, we're setting the turn limit at 1,000 turns.
This is well done. I love this. Honestly, Hydra takes so long to actually do it, even on auto, that, it usually takes me about an hour to do my auto teams, or at least 40 minutes at 1,500 turns, and that's just a lot. That's just too much from my point of view. Imagine if you're somebody that manuals it, right? Somebody that likes to manual it, it can go up to like 2 hours even if you try to min-max and doing the best. So the fact that they cap the turn limit, they make it instead of 1,500 to 1,000, that's a massive win from my point of view, and I think most of you will agree, right? I think most of you out there will agree with this.
Auto-battling the Hydra can easily take over an hour, so we're aiming to cut down the time by at least half an hour. You'll now need to build teams that do damage faster, rather than teams built for a war of attrition. With a few adjustments, you'll have no problem reaching the damage numbers needed to get your usual rewards. Moving on, we're changing how the Serpent's will buff works. Most importantly, and brace yourselves folks, it now reduces damage by 100% for a newly grown Hydra head. Yep, you read that right. Complete damage reduction.
I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with the damage reduction being 100% because, well, at the end of the day, it's kind of helps us focus more on the actual mechanics of Hydra itself, of, bringing the decreased speeds, the block buffs, decreased attack, weakens, all of those cool mechanics that kind of make your team work and, stopping the Hydra. And before it was like, I think it was 70% or 75%. And basically with the cheese Trunda teams, you could just one-shot them through that and kill them, which that was not fair, right? That was not fair. It kind of mitigated the mechanics. So I don't mind this, right? I don't mind it. It's okay from my point of view.
You won't be able to nuke a newly grown head straight out of the gate anymore. Hold on, though. There's good news, too. If two heads regrow at the same time, only one of them will get the Serpent's will buff. Champions have gotten stronger since the Hydra initially reared its heads. What with Awakening...
That's a good thing, right? Especially because that happens a lot, right? When you have teams that kill them pretty fast, like, for example, I have a Teox team, and I even have like ones with Marius, with Wallmaster or Thorian, you know, lots of nukes. Usually kill heads pretty fast, or like kill them similarly at around the same times. When they start popping back up, okay, one of them is going to have full damage mitigation, while the other one not. So that's I guess that's a good way to balance it. That's a good way to balance it. But I think it only applies if two of them pop at the same time. If one pops and then you get the turn, another one pops, I don't think it's going to be the same. But I guess we're going to see in the future, and obviously we're going to test it out and see how it goes.
Empowerment and mythical champions joining the fray. Yep. We were seeing Hydra heads nuked as soon as they rejoined the battle, even with the 75% damage reduction. So, to make the fight even, and bring back some of the challenge that's been lost due to the game's evolution, the Hydra is getting a little stronger too. We're also making changes to Digestion and Devouring. You know how late on in the battle your champions start getting digested on a 2-turn countdown? Well, for every subsequent time they get digested after that first 2-turn countdown, the damage you'll need to do to free your champion increases. Like with Serpent's Will, Digestion and Devouring lost much of its intended challenge over time as more powerful champions and features were introduced. It was always meant to be one of the Hydra's key mechanics and an ever-present threat. But it became really easy to rescue allies that were being digested.
Honestly, I don't believe that's a bad thing, because the way that this one applies is pretty much, if you think about it, it also ties into the fact that they're going to reduce the turn limit from 1,500 to 1,000, which means by the time you get to that point, if you have, you know, the right buffs and debuffs in the team, which I always say increase speed and decrease speed are kind of like mandatory, if you have those, by the time you get to the point where they start devouring you on a 2-turn and they're doing it, you know, a lot, you know, one after the other, I think you should be close to the end of the run, right? You should be hitting the turn limit. It's going to be 1,000 anymore. So from my point of view, at least, you know, maybe for endgame, at least, if not for everybody, but for endgame, at least, that's not going to impact much, as, like I said, the run should be over by the time that happens. So I don't think that's a bad thing. And you know what? At the end of the day, Hydra was supposed to be challenging, right? It's, apart from St. Tranos, which is RNG City, this is like one of the most challenging eras in the game. That's kind of like PvP, but with PvE, right? It's like clan versus clan, but by using the PvE mechanics of Hydra. So I personally like Hydra being a bit more challenging. So, you know, that's going to be fun.
We're bringing that fear back into Digestion. Taunts won't help anymore either. The Hydra has shed its thin skin, and petty insults will no longer distract it from a delicious champion meal sat right in front of it. In short, once a champion receives the mark of the Hydra debuff, they become public enemy number 1. And Taunt isn't going to do anything about it. Taunt is a cool mechanic, but new champion combinations emerged that could totally negate the mark of the Hydra. Less cool. It's not all bad news, though.
Honestly, I think that's, I don't like this. Like, I personally don't like the fact that they're, like, nerfing the Taunt as well, because it was, you know what, it is one of the buffs that it has very few uses in the game, honestly. Like, Hydra kind of made one of the good uses for Taunt, right? Especially, as an example, I know a ton of people that did the Packmaster fusion, myself included, just to have him, but I know a ton of people that did that fusion specifically for Hydra, right? He brought block buffs and Taunt, and you're like, you know what, he's gonna be perfect for Hydra for me, I'm gonna invest my resources to go and do that fusion, and now them doing this, this is a bad move from my point of view. Considering the fact that, I already watched the video, I know what's gonna happen next, but considering all the other changes that they did, I don't think they needed to touch Taunt anymore. I think Taunt was supposed to stay the way it is, but, you know, again, that's just my opinion, and unfortunately I think it's too late. I don't think they're gonna change it, and Taunt is just gonna be another useless buff that, you know, maybe some people use in Shogun, but you don't need it when you have, you know, rares that can beat Shogun, or in Arena, but in Arena they have to bring a little bit more than just the Taunt itself. It's gonna be just one of those useless buffs, again, from my point of view.
Your team's AI will now prioritize attacking the head that is digesting when you're running in auto battle mode.
Why are they saying this like it's a new thing? This was already implemented. This was already added to the game in a previous patch. It's not like they added it as a new thing. The thing they should add as new thing is if there's a decapitated head, Like after attacking the one that has somebody devoured, the next thing they should always attack is the one that's decapitated head, because the AI is pretty dumb in the game, especially on people like Lady Mikage, right? The free mythical that everybody can fuse. She does ally attacks on like heads like this that can take 0 damage. So that's what they need to change, not re-emphasize. They're like, oh yeah, they're gonna attack the one that devoured your champions on auto. That one's already there. So, you know, don't try to sneak it in like a good thing.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Exposed necks are also getting a rework. From now on, exposed necks will have a set HP value that is double the original head's HP. Once that value reaches 0, the head will immediately regrow. With constantly regrowing Hydra heads, you'll need to think on your feet and have tactics in place for all potential scenarios. Oh, man, Hydra battles are about to get much tougher.
Yeah, I think they're going to get a lot tougher, and I think what we're going to see is a lot of our damages are going to drop, especially with this change, right? Having a cap of how much damage you can do on decapitated heads is pretty tricky. I'm not sure if that's going to affect, for example, if you do over that damage. So let's say normal head has 1 million HP, and then when it becomes decapitated, it has 2 million HP, right? So if I come in and I do with somebody, I don't know, like 4 million damage, do I still do that 4 million damage, or does it stop at 2 million and then it dies? And then it stops and then it respawns. That's my question. If it doesn't, if it still allows the full damage, then I guess it's okay. If not, I think it's gonna be insanely hard to do a lot of damage. I think it's gonna be close to impossible to do like over 10 billion damages if everything's gonna be capped. But I guess we're gonna have to wait and see with that.
But the changes don't stop there. We've got a few more lined up to help keep things balanced, starting with shields. Shields will now receive a cap of 1 million points. This cap is separate for shields placed by artifacts and shields placed by skills, though. So you could get up to 2 million points of shield. These caps are still big enough to ensure powerful builds remain viable for taking on the Demon Lord and the Hydra, but they'll not be as game-breaking as before. And lastly, we come to...
So when it comes to the shields, honestly, the reason why shields were good is because of the Yannicka teams. With the way that they do it, if I understand correctly, like the cap of 2 million, the Yannicka strategies meant that after you grow those shields to 2 million, which is, you know, it takes a while to grow those shields, you pass them on to the Hydra, or like you let it to be devoured, then you explode it with Yannicka. That's a total of maximum 8 million damage that you can do. So that's not enough. From my point of view, definitely the Yannicka, I mean, they were already dead with the way that they swapped the Taunt mechanic, because now, obviously, Taunt not stopping them from devouring you means the Wixwell Yannicka teams are dead, which, again, from my point of view, that's a good thing. I'm not a big fan of cheese teams, right? Especially cheese teams that mean that once you have that one, you don't care about it, you move on. But, yeah, the shield thing didn't need to be changed. The one thing I'm scared about is that I'm not sure how it's going to affect the Demon Lord. If it doesn't affect the Demon Lord in a way where you can still one key Ultra Nightmare just full auto by putting Wixwell in there, I'm fine. If it affects the Demon Lord, then that's going to be a big problem from my point of view, because I know a ton of people wrote in my comments and said if their Ultra Nightmare team does not work with Wixwell anymore, with the with the change after they saw in the code the nerf to Wixwell, they're going to quit the game. So I really hope that it still allows them to do one key Ultra Nightmare, right? I really hope that. Otherwise, it's a bad move. Like, they didn't need to touch the shields, honestly. Just didn't, from my point of view.
Everyone's favorite dwarven warrior herself, Trunda Guilt Mallet. Oh. Don't worry, we're not nerfing her into oblivion. We're just...
You already nerfed her. Like don't say that. She was already nerfed, at least for Hydra, right? She was already nerfed, but again, she was not working as intended from my point of view. Well, not from my point of view, 100%. Go check out Seth's videos where he explains how that A2 works, and it's after it does the first damage, it re-multiplies all the, the damage, the crit damage, the skills, the whatever. It was not working as intended, so at least that one's going out. But I'm really curious if she's still gonna be good for other areas, right? Or still do enough damage for Hydra, because I know there's tons of people that invested in her, myself included. Like, just to show a quick example, I obviously, because I was using, this is one of the ones that I was using, I kept buying her Awakenings, and they're pretty expensive because I was unlucky enough to pull them. So if I wanted to buy the next one, that would have cost me like 100 of the big ones, and that's tough. So, hopefully my 4-star is still going to be useful somewhere.
rebalancing some of her skills to keep her damage numbers in Hydra battles more reasonable. Starting with her default skill, Golden Mallet, Trunda will now have a 50% chance to place a stun debuff on both hits. A little...
Okay, let me have it on the side. Let me have it on the other side so I can check and basically see what they changed, right? Because I wanna compare it, what they show to what they changed. So let's see. So first one, they say 2 times has a 50%. This one I just changed it to each hit has a chance to stun. So I guess that's a good thing.
Upgrade, but a neat one for PvP. Trunda's second skill, Cloak of Ages, will now ignore 50% of each target's defense on her second hit. However, the caveat here is that it will only ever be a normal hit. It's still big damage, but it won't be quite as astronomical.
Yeah, it's big damage, but it's not going to be able to do the stuff you used to do in Hydra. However, I'm curious if this is still going to be viable in Arena, considering that they introduced the fact that it's going to ignore defense, right, after the initial hit. But then after that, on the second hit, it's just going to not be able to crit, which means the damage is going to be a lot lower, right? The fact that it could have crit again meant the damage was good. I guess, again, we're going to have to see and test it out. So that's the change they did with the ignore defense.
As they have been before. Forge Rhythm, Trunda's third skill, now places consistent HP burn debuffs, and both hits from this skill deal 50% more damage to enemies under a stone skin shield. Another neat boost to her overall kit. And finally, her passive...
Yeah, so before it used to be that has a chance to place stun, also places the HP burn on people under stun. Now, she's just going to consistently place that stun, right? Let me see. No, the stun, the HP burn is still going to be placed, obviously, if you have accuracy. Also, place an extra hit if they don't have a stun, and both hits will deal more damage to Stone Skin. I'm not sure how powerful this is gonna be, right? If it's a massive change, if you can see the difference, let's say the double hit takes down a Stone Skin, at least from a nuker, right? Or almost kills a nuker, then it's good enough. If not, it's pretty much meh, useless. Also, the burn can be tricky, because if you have high awaken and have some accuracy, you can just be turned into a sheep. Okay, let's see the passive.
The passive skill now increases Trunda's attack by 5% for each stun or HP burn debuff.
Okay, so increases attack, increases the speed. This was the same. So we had the same thing. The speed, just they put the increased attack. It stacks up to 50% per round. So this champion's attack increases by 10% for each stun or HP burn debuff this champion places on enemies. So her attack can stack up to 50%, which means she might, you know, some of the other damage might be taken from her, but then this one can stack up her damage where 50% more attack can be huge. We know that from people like Ninja, we know that from people like Val the Destroyer, so this might actually be interesting. The second part is just the same, right? Second part, if there's what's it called, burns and stuns out there, you can get some extra speed. That's not a big change in my opinion. It's not a massive influence.
She places on enemies. Her speed will still be increased as well, both by stun and HP burn debuffs. All in all, Trundle isn't going anywhere. We still expect her to be an excellent choice for Hydra battles and the arena. We tested a ton of early, mid, and late game champion rosters and team compositions when making these changes. Our results showed things will get better. You'll still be able to earn...
I mean, this is... Compared to teams that we've seen that, you know, she used to do billions, it's obviously a lot lower, and considering it's the +4, I don't know. We're gonna have to do some testing and see. If she's still, you know, maybe in a team like this, let's say if she can still reach something like 500 million up to 1 billion, I guess it's still going to be decent, right, for most people that build her. But the fact that it doesn't do billions anymore, again, from my point of view, that's good. It was too much, right? It was just too much overboard compared to the next best thing, right?
Earn Hydra chests and milestone rewards in Hydra Clash. And you'll spend less time fighting the Hydra each week. As always, we'll be keeping an eye on your feedback and monitoring game data to see how these changes affect Hydra battles overall. We hope this preview has been useful for you and will help you prepare for more battles against the Hydra. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more raid news.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it with this video. What do you guys think, right? What do you think? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a bad thing? Because, again, from my point of view, the way that I see it and the way that I've been saying it in the past, when it comes to areas like, you know, the more complex areas of the game, not like dungeons, right? When it comes to dungeons, if you have a specific thing that you do it, click it, move on, there's no competition, just do you farm it or not, it doesn't matter, right? If there's cheese teams for Shogun, Sand Devil, Fire Knight, whatever, do you really care? It doesn't affect the way that you play the game. It doesn't affect your competition with other people. It doesn't affect the rewards, only if you're trying to compete on like the leaderboard. When it comes to stuff, for example, like Hydra, that's kind of like, you know, the competitive mode where you can always try maybe to improve, to get better, to get higher points. Having some teams that are just basically, you get those cheese teams and that's it. There's basically no reason for you to look at this anymore. It's kind of like, I don't know, that wasn't fun for me. And basically, it's pretty obvious. Trunda teams are going to be dead. Wixwell Yannicka teams are going to be dead. Taunt is going to be dead, right? Which means then we're just going to have to always try and constantly improve and try and get some better, better teams. Always try and hope to get some better rewards. And I guess let's have a look. Like as an example, let me show you teams that I'm using. So basically, the team that I'm using obviously are going to be some stuff that like not everybody's going to be able to do. They're not as relatable, but one of my best team is actually my Teox team, right? He's a faction unity champ. He's a unique one. I can do like 1.5 billion damage with him. It's, you know, not even close to my 4 to 5 billion that I do on hard with Trunda. And then Teox, you know, it's a pretty unique, having the perfect build for him. My other team is using, you know, the Marius, Michinaki, Wallmaster. This one does like 700 million. And then what else do I have? And then I had some other teams where I used, again, Supreme Gaelic, Animax HP teams. There's a lot more options. After you eliminate these two ones, from my point of view, the Trunda and the Wixwell, there's a lot more options of how you can get some pretty high numbers. I've seen people do, for example, with Ninja, right? On Nightmare, Ninja, Lady Mikage, I don't know, Sifi, Krisk, just some supports alongside. I've seen them do 1 billion. So there's, once you eliminate those two big ones, there's plenty of other options that keep it balanced. And there are going to be a few that are still going to be at the top. Like one of the ones that comes into mind is going to be, if you have a Taras that's, you know, High Awakening, +4s, whatever, obviously Krakens are always going to be at the top. You cannot compete with them, doesn't matter, right? People are going to say, there might be people in the comments saying they're like, oh, this affects the free-to-play players a ton. It's not necessarily only that, right? You say that, yes, it does affect you. You as a free-to-play player, maybe you've been doing, I don't know, 3-4 million on hard, right? If somebody comes that's a Kraken, you're still not going to be able to compete with them because they're going to be doing 100 million on Nightmare, you know, or like, not 100 million, but like 40, 50 billion on Nightmare. So it's like, I don't know. This is my opinion. I feel like for the sake of keeping Hydra be something fun in the game, right? For the longevity, I guess, of the Hydra and the Hydra Clash itself, I feel like this is a good thing because, again, same way that I'm doing it, I'm always trying to improve it. I'm always trying to get better teams, better champions, hoping to pull some other cool stuff. Like, as an example, Thor, that was a fusion. I'm really happy that I have him because I have him in my team with Teox, and he does a ton of damage. He does some amazing damage. I'm just going to be hoping I'm going to be pulling some cool stuff like Toshiro, right? Toshiro is going to be, I think, the number one now because he does some obscene numbers, but he's not going to do the 50 billion Trunda level unless, you know, the big Krakens are going to find ways to take it out there, but he's nowhere near the way the Trunda does. Like, I'm going to expect, honestly, to see maybe 10 to 20 billion damage, but no more than that because of the other changes that appear. So, all in all, from my point of view, I think this is a good change. The only thing that I totally disagree with is the Taunt. They shouldn't have killed Taunt for Hydra because it just basically, Emek, Packmasters that were built specifically for that, are just going to be useless. There's very few spots in the game where you're going to be like, oh yeah, I want to use Taunt. No. Anyway, this video was a little bit longer than I expected. Again, let me know in the comments down below what you think about this, and please try to be respectful, right? It's just my opinion. This is the way that I see it personally. Like, you know, if you disagree, you can always do that without being rude. At least don't be rude to me. Like, you know, if you want to say something to Plarium, fair enough, but let's try and keep it respectful in the comments. But anyway, this is gonna be it for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please consider liking it, subscribing to the channel to see when I upload next, and gonna see you on the next one. Peace, love, take care, everyone. Bye, guys.